Well, Eric Bischoff, in true Eric Bischoff fashion, has responded. He clapped back, if you will, at Ric Flair. If you remember last week, we covered the topic of Ric Flair taking shots at Eric Bischoff, apparently in this documentary that Ric Flair's got coming up. It's supposed to take a deep dive into Ric's whole career and kind of hit it with some truth. And apparently Eric Bischoff was a little too truthy on there. Before that, they had kissed and made up. You know, they said they liked and respected each other, that they were, going out and having drinks together and shit like that. And now all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, Eric just on this documentary, and I haven't seen it yet, and nobody has. But apparently Eric's a little bit stiff with some of his comments on Flair, and that pissed Flair off. So he called Bischoff an arrogant prick. And, of course, Bischoff couldn't let that slide. Apparently there was a tweet in there from Flair, too, somewhere along the way, talking about, how over they were as the Horsemen or whatever. I don't remember the exact thing. No, he put out a promo. He put out a promo going hard on Eric Bischoff from WCW, and Bischoff had responded. And this is what he had to say. Check out this clip.
Why are you popping off at my father-in-law, Ric Flair, on social media?
Hey, he started that shit. I was perfectly content to sit back and just, mind my own business and stay quiet. And Rick just started blabbing about a bunch of stuff that he was pissed off at me about. I was just defending myself. I'm more than happy. I am more than happy to just let it go and just forget it all ever happened. Rick posts this video of him cutting a promo on me from back in whenever. And
1998, so 24 years ago.
You wonder why, Eric. You really wonder why, woo. And I just pointed out this is some of Rick's best work, and he should thank me for that. I brought that out in him. I brought that level of emotion, and I brought out what became really the best Ric Flair. I brought that out of him. He should be thanking me for helping him to get over instead of just being a whiny baby about this whole thing. I don't get it.
Well, Eric, you wrote "I Made You" to Ric Flair.
I did make him. Rick was in WCW right after Ted Turner bought it, and it was great, for a lot of people. But the truth is, WCW couldn't make any money with Ric Flair. So what did Ric Flair do? He went to WWE, and guess what? Couldn't make any money with Ric Flair in WWE. So guess what? Rick comes back to WCW, and WCW still couldn't make any money with him in 93 and 94, which is why I had to go out and get Hulk Hogan. Rick's a great performer. Don't get me wrong. He's a legend. But when it comes to business, I had to do what I had to do. And if evidently that just rubs Rick the wrong way and he can't let it go, I'm really sorry about that. But my God, let it go.
I will encourage you to check out the follow-up clip to this, because Ric Flair did also respond to Eric Bischoff's response. So that's why I say, here we go. We're in it now. This is just going to be back and forth. Bischoff doesn't let shit go. And neither does Flair, apparently. Flair's a pretty, this has been one of my main criticisms of Ric Flair, to be honest with you. And I'll get into it more. I got another clip later. If you're watching the clips, just check out the Ric Flair clip. You'll know it when you see it from this week. Otherwise, just in general, Rick's a pretty bitter guy. Sorry, I got some fucking shit in my eye or something. I don't fucking know. Just bear with me while I fucking twitch my eye out, because I'm not gonna stop the video to fucking fix it. So deal with it. But Eric Bischoff never shy to fucking respond. He never bites his tongue. He never holds back. He's never the better man. You say something about Eric Bischoff, or you even say something that offends Eric Bischoff. Ask Tony Khan. Said something about Ted Turner, and you would have thought he fucking called Bischoff's mom a whore or something. You know what I mean? Like, Bischoff can hold a grudge, and he will go at you, and he'll go at you with fury. And as I said last week, Bischoff, he likes it. This is sport to Bischoff. He gets off on pushing people's buttons, getting into fights, getting into arguments. It's a sport. He wants to see how well he can do in an argument, how well he can hold up. Same with, he fancies himself a tough guy, likes to get in fights just to fucking do it. So he says anyway. I'd fight Eric Bischoff. I'd kick him right in the balls. I don't give a shit. No, but yeah, Bischoff kind of going hard on Ric Flair here and just continued to bury him. And then that caused Conrad to get heated. And then Bischoff and Conrad got into it, and it was awkward at times. But this makes for great podcasting, right? Like, look, Conrad even asked, where's this leading? I think he asked Flair, actually, on Flair's show. Where's all this leading? Conrad needs to get Bischoff and Flair together. Hopefully not on, like, a live event at fucking the crab cakes place, you know, and Jimmy's famous seafood. I'm talking about, like, on the podcast. We need, like, a face-to-face, or at least, you know, over fucking, you know, Zoom or StreamYard or whatever they're doing. And get those two together and let them hash it out. Just fucking go at it, because clearly there's some unresolved issues going on there. They had kissed and made up and made peace, but I don't feel like either one of them ever really made the peace. I feel like they agreed to just forget about it and be nice to each other, but I don't think their opinions of each other or opinions of, you know, how they feel about things ever really changed. They just, you know, let's let bygones be bygones and let's just get past it. But at the same time, fuck you. Eric Bischoff, not afraid to hold back, and he was harsh. Now, I have a feeling, you know, that was going to be the news story coming out of this, but then Ric Flair had to open his mouth, and I have a feeling that that's going to even overshadow this one here from Bischoff. But I wanted to make sure that this saw the light of day, because it's worth noting all the things that Bischoff had to say. And look, for my money, the Horsemen were the shit, you know. To some extent, when I was a little kid, like, I never got into the country shit. I've always thought country was equaled boring to me as a little kid, listening to it on the radio in the car, you know, parents listening to it or whatever. It's like, you know, like country. I never got into wrestlers that wore cowboy boots or had the cowboy gimmick. That's why I wasn't a Barry Windham fan. Bless his heart. I hope he's recovering well after his heart attack. You know, thoughts and prayers with him, but I never, you know, he had the cowboy boots on and shit. I didn't give a fuck about him as a kid. And Dustin Rhodes and like the Natural. Oh, they call him the Natural. You know, just that theme music was cringe. Now it's kind of fun, but you get my point. Jeff Jarrett, never like, fuck these Southern country bunking guys. So it's not my thing. Where was I even going? The Horsemen, yeah, they did seem regional, to Bischoff's point. But they were over as far as I could tell. I don't know what kind of money they were bringing in the 80s. I'm sure they were bringing in a lot. But you know, Bischoff's he's not entirely wrong when he says that they were a regional promotion. Or I mean Crockett was a regional promotion with national television. You know, which made the Horsemen a regional act. That was not as over when WCW was national. But they were also, you know, past their prime. The Horsemen was an 80s act. You know, that's something I think, you know, is kind of lost in the mix here. The Horsemen weren't, it's the same as Hulk Hogan. Hogan was an 80s act. And, you know, if he was going to continue to be the red and yellow, say your prayers, eat your vitamins, brother, he wasn't going to last in the 90s. He was dying a slow death. That's why he had to become Hollywood Hogan. It's just, you know, that act, it just wasn't going to be as strong in the 90s. And yes, WCW had a better run than Crockett. Crockett made more money consistently, as I understand it, you know, over the years. They were also regional and weren't doing things on as big of a level. Eric Bischoff, you know, WCW burned hot and fast. You know what I mean? They were one of those kind of gimmicks. And they, you know, they beat WWE, and I do believe they're still, you know, had the biggest money-making years in the entire history of pro wrestling. Like more than WWF ever has in any year. Maybe not now. I think that's a bit of a stretch, these fucking $1 billion TV deals and the sweet Saudi money and all that stuff. But, You know, it's something, you know, Conrad said anyway, that Eric Bischoff led WCW to the most, maybe it was in that time, but I do believe he said to this day. So, you know, there's an argument to be had back and forth, but I think the overall point here is, why are we arguing about this 25 years later anyway? Who cares? Let's let it go. And, you know, Bischoff had let it go. But Bischoff is not going to stay silent. He's not going to let it go when you're talking shit. You know, Flair went on his podcast last week and he talked shit about Eric Bischoff. And he tried to brush it off. Oh, I just said that he was an arrogant dick, and he was. And Bischoff is an arrogant dick. And he'll probably tell you that if you ask him, get a couple beers in him, he'll be like, yeah, I'm an arrogant dick. He knows what he's doing when he says stupid shit like that. But, you know, he's on that fucking documentary. Whatever he said, I'm sure he said it with his little shit-eating Eric Bischoff grin. But yeah, I mean, Flair clapped back, and Bischoff's now gonna go at him hard. He's gonna fucking destroy him. And of course, Flair responded, and I'm sure Bischoff will respond. And it's gonna be this whole fucking loop of nonsense and back and forth. But you know what? It's entertaining, and at least for now, it's a story. You know, same with Bischoff and Tony Khan. You know, I covered that for while it was hot, but then it just became Bischoff's weekly gimmick is burying AEW. And, you know, that'll probably be the case here until somebody else crawls up his ass. But we shall see. What are your thoughts down below on any of this? Who's in the right? Who's in the wrong? Is Bischoff in the wrong for just being a dick face in general? Is, you know, just a smarmy prick? We all know he is. Is Flair in the wrong because he's so sensitive and touchy and gets offended by everything? And you know, he was the one who drew first blood on Bischoff on his podcast. Or do you want to comment on the Horsemen, WCW, Crockett Promotions, any of that? Just leave it down below, and we're going to go ahead and move on to the next. Hey, thanks for checking out that clip. Don't forget to check out other clips here on the channel. And while you're there, throw a like, throw a subscribe. And don't forget to check out full episodes each and every Sunday of the Pro Wrestling Podcast.